The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. Please stay tuned for continued coverage. For broadcast times of local government meetings, check our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You're watching City Cable 10, your source for government programming in the Oshkosh area. Simulcast on 101.9 FM WOCT and streamed on the World Wide Web at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org.
Okay, our 20-minute lunch break is over. But the reason there was no pizza was because Mr. Eisen took the money for all the food things that we had the other day. Supervisor, did she push? Supervisor Barker, you have your...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is something that's very hard for me to do because, so you're going to have to say I've been busy today and got a whole program to put on tonight. On amendment number 8, $100,000 for the dog park, I voted A. I wanted to vote nay. I wanted that money to be kept in for the dog park. I wanted to vote nay, and I think we can see it's just as good at that point as putting it in the bank. And I need to bring it to the floor right away to change the vote, and I'll let the rest of you do whatever has to be done with this. But I did want to vote to keep the money in the budget. I'm done.
What was the vote at that time, or what?
15-13. It was 15 to 13. If we would change it, it would go 14-14. It would lose.
Now it's time.
Okay, so the vote now loses on that because and our county board rules state that you can bring that back before the next resolution comes forward. And she had her light on right when we went back into the meeting, so that resolution loses. Supervisor Norton?
Are you saying it's 14 to 14?
Yes.
It's defeated.
She claimed she voted wrong, so. And the county board rules and our county board rule book states that if somebody makes a mistake, they have to notify us before the next resolution comes forward.
So what was that vote then?
14-14 at the end. It was tied. Supervisor Widener.
I was just going to comment on the rules. I passed.
Supervisor Norton, did I?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to approve amendment number 9, restore 1 full-time disability benefit position and eliminate 2 half-time disability benefit positions from the 2015 Human Services budget.
It's been moved and seconded.
Very briefly, I'm bringing this forward because Director Bill Topol talked to Larry Launschlager about it, and Larry Launschlager obviously cannot be here, and it's a request of the department, and it makes it easier for the department. And any questions, Mr. Collier said he could help answer any questions.
Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I promise to be brief, I really do. But I would like to publicly ask the Chairman of Judiciary and Public Safety to reconsider, when the time comes, reconsider that rule in the county board rules. And we have the authority to do it. Robert's rule says in voting by any of these methods, a member has the right to change his vote up to the time the result is announced. The result had been announced that it passed, but our county rules differ. We have to seriously look at the county board rules versus these rules. Thank you.
Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did press in before you went ahead. I was always told that the county board rules trump Robert's rules. I respect and appreciate Mrs. Barker's dilemma, I guess what you could call it, but this is really, I believe, wrong. The body voted, and then one vote, one person gets to change the will of the whole body. I don't believe that's right. If we have rules, we gotta follow them. That's basically,
We're on a different subject at the moment, I'm sorry.
because I pressed in and then I wasn't called on.
Yes, we realize it.
But he can talk whenever he wants.
Supervisor Widener.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Norton, I do have trouble understanding you. Are you saying that Dr. Topol is in favor of this particular one?
Yes. Dr. Topol talked to Larry Launchlager during the lunch break when the students were in here, and that's why it's being brought forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please explain why it's necessary to have one full-time disability position instead of two half-time disability positions. We've got two offices for Human Services, one in Oshkosh, one in Neenah. I don't understand, and I need to understand why it's necessary to have one full-time person instead of two part-times. Typically, you have two part-time persons because you may split them between offices. They may have different, need to be in different locations at different hours. I don't know why, and I don't think we have enough information to change that information.
Supervisor Colliard, could you bail us out? Not supervisor, director, HR director.
Thank you. The current staffing is two full-time positions of this particular job class, duty disability specialist. The department had proposed, as part of this budget, to take one of the full-time positions and turn it into two half-time positions. They've rethought their decision to make that proposal, and the department wishes to withdraw it. It really, and I don't know whether one of them is based up in Neenah or not. I'm not aware of that. But it wasn't, the change wasn't going to be a change in location either way. There were some reasons for wanting to make the change that are no longer applicable. They were expecting an employee change, and that employee situation has now been modified so that changing it into two would require them to lay off a full-time employee, which they didn't think would be the case when they made the proposal. So that would cause some disruption in the department to keep it in.
Thank you, Mr. Colliard. The cavalry's come through again.
Okay, we'll vote by our little, are you ready? We'll vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. Don't feel bad, I'm missing too.
Is Nancy gone?
I don't know.
I apologize.
I think Nancy left.
Is Jerry gone?
Yeah, Jerry left the room temporarily.
That is passed.
May I be recognized?
Yes. Supervisor Rowe.
I would like to move to reconsider Resolution 95-10-214, Amendment 8. And I'm looking for a second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Call the question.
He wanted, could you state it over for the clerk?
I just moved to reconsider Amendment 8.
Mr. Rowe wasn't on the prevailing side.
Pardon me?
Were you on the prevailing side?
No.
Then that motion is out of order.
He voted aye. And it passed initially. At the time he voted, it was aye, and it passed, so I don't know.
Well, now he's not on the prevailing side.
Because of the law.
We can't take it
He
up.
cannot move to reconsider somebody else.
You can't move to reconsider.
prevailing side, I will move to reconsider.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Wait, I don't get it.
Amendment number 8.
Right, it initially passed with 15 yeses, and Supervisor Rowe voted aye.
Yeah, but with what's her name's vote, Nancy's being changed.
Then it lost, so
Then it
nobody's on the
lost, so
prevailing
which side
side.
was whiter?
Then it's tied 14-14,
So it lost.
so there's really no prevailing side.
Yeah, there is a prevailing
The
side.
lost,
It lost,
okay, I
yeah.
see,
So
okay.
did he vote aye or nay?
Widener voted aye.
No, he's not on the prevailing side.
No.
You weren't on the prevailing side.
You voted aye.
To bring it in to reconsider, you would have to vote no on that.
Okay.
After Nancy changed her vote, Supervisor Rowe? Were you voted aye?
Okay, so that's a dead issue, right?
So that, right at this point, that's a dead issue. Unless somebody else brings it in there. Somebody else would have to bring it in. Supervisor Rasmussen?
You know, I understand the rule there, but considering we had a 15 or 20-minute break, I think that supersedes that rule. The rule, what my understanding would be, is just what happened. Somebody pushed the wrong button, and within a matter of a minute, you realize that, and you can change it back, because typically, you go right to the next resolution. We didn't do that. We had a 15-minute break. There was time for lots of discussion afterwards, so I really question whether or not that county board rule supersedes Robert's rules because of that break situation that we had. Thank you.
Can you help me answer it? Yes.
Mr. Rasmussen, your rule states, a voting error shall be brought to the attention of the chair before a vote is called on the next item. Before the board or no corrective action will be taken. So actually, Nancy Barker had until a vote was taken on the next amendment to bring that to the attention of the floor. Now, again, as Mr. Rose said, if you think that's a bad rule, you can change it at some time in the future, but that's what your rule is right now.
Supervisor Winsky, or Supervisor Wingren?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was also going to move to reconsider. My reason was, when you announced the vote, or when we saw the vote, it was 15-13. It was said that it passed, and then there was this break, and then there was all sorts of little conferences going on. I wasn't privy to all the I don't want to use any derogatory terms here, but I think it's wrong. I think we need to follow the fact that
I think we already voted on something.
that we should be able to vote to reconsider this, with all due respect to everyone involved.
Supervisor Knitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, do you need somebody to bring this forward that voted nay? I so wish to bring item amendment number 8 forward again.
Second.
Well, are you moving to reconsider it?
Yes.
And did you vote no?
That I want to change my vote?
No.
The amendment.
What did you vote?
I voted nay.
Okay, so he could bring it forward.
Yes.
Been moved and seconded.
And we have a
It's been
second.
brought to the floor, Mr. Rowe seconded it, so we're.
Call the
that is
question.
That's, number 8 is back on the floor. Okay, you want to just, there are no other questions unless you have some, Mr. Rowe. I keep forgetting with how I have your light. Okay, we'll take your iPad and we have to re-vote.
Hold on, I gotta get it in there.
You're voting to reconsider number 8.
No, can I just make a comment? Just so you folks know that if you vote to reconsider this, it doesn't automatically change the result, it just brings it back on the floor. Okay? All right.
Then we have,
Doesn't matter. All right.
and then I bring the original resolution back, right?
We're voting to bring the resolution back, is that it?
No, right. Okay, it was moved and seconded. If you want to bring it back, vote aye. If you don't, vote nay.
Not working against me.
Oh, sorry.
Voting to bring it back?
They're voting to bring it back.
Oh, you're back, yes.
That is passed. Now we're voting on the original resolution again.
And that's still in the joint, right?
Supervisor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We obviously have a pretty split body here, but I have to say, righting a wrong with another wrong does not make it right. Now, Nancy Barker, whether you like our current rule or not, exercised the right of a rule that we currently have in place as one of our governing rules. And our rules for this body completely supersede Robert's rules, and it expressly states in our rule book that any rule that's not spelled out in our rule book, then we default to Robert's rules. But this rule is expressly stated in our rule book that any of us have the right to change our vote before the next vote is taken. It's completely written exactly. There's nothing to interpret. Now, you may not like the rule. That's perfectly reasonable. And if looking forward down the road, we can change that rule, that's perfectly within our purview. But that is our right under our rules currently. And now the individual who exercised that right that this body approved of in the past and put it in its rule book is no longer here. She can't even vote anymore. So now if we think the rule is wrong, that's fine, except it's the rule we had in place today when that vote taken. By doing this, we are simply adding another wrong, and that does not make another right. In my opinion, now I appreciate everyone has a right to reconsider. I understand that. However, realistically, I question whether or not this is the most appropriate way for us to go, because the rule was in place, she exercised it correctly. Now Supervisor Konecki has a right to put in motion the reconsideration, and we did that as a body. I understand that. But what we're voting on then is essentially taking the same vote when one person is no longer here, and we know that will affect this vote. Any one of us could be in that situation in the future. And I gotta admit, I would be a little uncomfortable, and I gotta admit, I'd probably hold a little grudge if down the road I knew, because I had to leave because I had to do story time at the library for the kids in regards to Halloween stories, knowing that a vote was retaken when I exercised perfectly within my right, my vote, and my right to change it. So we've done everything right up until this point. Supervisor Konecki has a right to reconsider. We as a body had the right to reconsider. I think the right thing going forward now, though, is to say no and allow that vote to remain. So I'd urge you to defeat it. I really feel it's about how we operate as a body and how we recognize each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I could not agree more with most of what Supervisor Ramos just said. We have to follow the rules. The rules are we can reconsider. So we're following the rules. He also said we know how the vote's going to be. I really don't know how the vote's going to be because a member of the Parks Committee reconsidered this motion. So I don't know. In fact, I expect it to be a 2-vote aye. That's what I'm expecting. Thank you.
Supervisor Olson.
Pass. No comment.
Okay, we'll vote by our little transmitter. We'll vote aye if you want to reconsider, no if you don't. I mean to remove it.
Mr. Chairman, could we have the Corporation Council explain so everyone knows clearly what an aye vote means on this and what a no vote means on this? And the reason I bring that up because I think that's what brought us to this situation to begin with Supervisor Barker. Yes. So I just think if we're going to re-vote on this, everyone should really know what an aye vote means.
The amendment is to delete $100,000 from the parks budget. If you vote aye, you're taking the money out of the budget, so you're supporting the amendment to take the money out of the budget. If you vote no, that means you want to keep the money in the budget for exploration of a dog park. Everybody understand that?
Okay, are you ready?
It's all ready.
And it's passed. Did we do number 9?
Yes, we did
Number 10, increase the Winnebago County Board budget by $30,000. And I was the one that brought this in. The reason I brought it in was we're doing a wage study. The $70,000 was in my budget. I'm told that that is not enough money to finish or to do a wage study, so I'm adding that money back in. If you want to do a wage study, you should support this. If you don't, number 10.
You don't indicate in there whether that's to increase the tax levy to pay for it, or if it's to come from some other source. Do you want that added to the
I'll
levy?
leave it whatever works best for you.
Well, add it to the levy.
Okay. I guess I just lost half the votes. We'll take it out of the fund balance. Okay, I brought it to the floor. It was seconded, correct? Second. Supervisor Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I don't understand what this is for.
I have
I wasn't listening.
I have $70,000 in my budget now to do a wage study. I'm being told that $70,000, that the counties that are doing it, the average cost is around $100,000, so I'm adding enough money so that it can be done correctly.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we see some evidence or documentation that a wage study that hasn't even begun, that I don't know if any of the $70,000 from last year has been spent rather. It sounds like you're going to have to sign something or indicate that you want that original $70,000 rolled into next year's budget to facilitate that study. Boy, I thought that the $36,000 for iPads was premature. This is entirely premature. I urge you to defeat this.
Okay. We'll vote by our iPad. Our transmitter, vote aye if you, okay, we gotta wait a second. Supervisor Warnke? That is passed. Amendment number 11, add $3,500 to the Veterans Department budget for flag replacement and reserved parking signs. Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for Resolution 95102-014, Amendment 11.
Okay, it was moved and seconded.
In regards to this amendment, there was a lot of congratulations towards Mr. Stone yesterday, and I did indicate when I wrote this amendment originally that this would be, maybe in his honor or dedicated towards him. The $3,500 would be to buy a substantial number of flags so that we can continually replace flags on county buildings. I very rarely go by a county building that has a nice-looking flag. And then also, if people want to see it, I'm hoping that part of this can go towards making some parking signs so that we could put at least one parking stall in each county parking lot that will have a sign that says reserved veteran parking. I saw these at a parking lot in St. Louis, Missouri, and I thought it was just a very classy touch. So I urge approval of this amendment. Thank you. Coming out of fund balance, by the way.
Thank you. Vote aye if you approve, no if you disapprove. Hold on a minute. passed. Amendment number 12. Add to the capital projects fund and increase the tax levy by the same amount. Supervisor Thompson, I guess you have to explain it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am introducing this resolution for basically two reasons. One of which is that, excuse me, we need to fund the things that we approve, and we also need to preserve our right or our ability to fund things that come up in the future. As you're all aware, and this comes up so often, our future levies are limited by the limitations we place on this one. Now that may sound very good to some. I'm sure some people approve of that very strongly. I do not. Approval of this limitation is based on sort of an idea that we won't be very responsible in our spending in the future, and we need somebody in Madison to tell us what the limits are. I don't think that's a very good policy. I believe that we have been extremely responsible, this is my other reason, in our spending, and that we will continue to be. And I recall that this past year we have returned about $3.5 million to reduce our borrowing. By reducing our borrowing by $3.5 million, we saved probably $65,000 in interest or whatever. Well, whatever the interest is on $3.5 million, I guess it's not that much. But it is a great deal of money. I think reducing the indebtedness of the county, or at least slowing down any increases that might occur, is a very good idea. It would stand on its own regardless of the argument about preserving our ability to raise taxes. I think a board that is responsible to the citizens of Winnebago County, and this board has in fact been very responsible, would at least preserve our ability to decide how much and how little we'll spend in the future, rather than leaving it to the state of Wisconsin by limiting our borrowing, our spending. I believe in every way it's a win-win to restore this money, because I know that it will not be spent additionally just because we have it. We have been very responsible. We avoided $3.5 million of borrowing this last year because we're responsible, and we'll continue to be. So I believe that we should add about $190,000 to the capital improvement funds and increase the budget by that same amount, or increase the taxes by that amount. It is the responsible thing to do. It's a win-win all the way around. Thank you.
Okay, there are no Supervisor Konitsky.
I'm sorry, did I miss it? Where did you get that figure from, please? Why did you use that number?
Basically, if you look at the screen up there, we're roughly 204,000 under the levy limit right now. So by adding 190,000 to the levy, that brings us to about 13,000 within of the of the allowable levy. So basically, the objective is to put some money aside in the capital project fund to reduce the borrowing next year by an amount that's allowable under the levy limit. And he didn't take it all the way up to the exact dollar amount, just to leave a slight cushion.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Rowe.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect to Supervisor Thompson, I'll have to vote no.
Supervisor Farley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am under the understanding that levy limit applies to your operational budget. It does not apply to your bonding authority. And so I will vote against this also. I think it's a token effort to achieve a person's point of view, Mr. Thompson in this case, but what we've done here over these many days is debate issues to arrive at a levy that was recommended by the county executive. And if we want to do a capital project, the state's not telling us we can't do that. We can. So I'll vote against this.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for Mr. Ornstein. What is that exact figure that we have under the levy limit right now?
$203,821. It's up on the screen. $203,821.
There's no change involved? There's no decimals? I want to know every
That's
penny.
a whole no, we don't do the levy to the penny.
Okay, very good then. I would like to amend this resolution to, instead of put in the, fill in the blank there at 190, 203,821. Because if this county wants to raise that through this blank check amendment, then I want this board to do it for every penny that they can suck out of the taxpayers of this county. Thank you.
Supervisor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be quite brief. I just have two comments, or it's really two messages. And we get to choose which message we're going to send to the public. And I do think by this vote, we are sending a message. And the first message is either we believe in taxing to the limit, or the second message is we believe in taxing to what we need to run Winnebago County. I, for one, want to send the message that we tax for what we need. I certainly don't want to give any perception, nor do I want to do anything in reality that would say we tax to the limit. So I'd urge you to defeat this and show the taxpayers that we are taxing for what we need for 2015, and therefore I'd urge you to defeat this. Thank you.
Supervisor Thompson.
I would just like to respond a bit. I don't know if the impression has actually been communicated over the years I've been here, but I have been a deficit hawk. I do not believe that the county should continue to borrow money for a lot of things that it does, and I am very much in favor of reducing our debt load. I believe that is a very good idea for families. It is a very good idea for counties and states and federal government. If this would pass, it would reduce our debt by that much. It would also reduce then the amount of money we spend on interest by something close to 2% of that or whatever, forever, not just once, but forever. I also believe that we do need to have our, as I said before, preserve our ability to raise taxes, to spend money, and tax appropriately, And the state law will continue to reduce our ability to spend money, even money that this county board thinks ought to be spent, as we have a levy below the levy limits. I think there's kind of a perception out there that if they like to use the word tax to the max. If they think tax to the max means that you're going to spend money irresponsibly, they don't know this board. I think we must preserve our options, and I continue to say this is a win-win, and I do hope that you will support it. Going back to the people and saying that I voted to keep your taxes low is a little bit hollow when it really means that I voted to keep your taxes low now so that they can be a little higher next time. And that is exactly what you do when you inhibit the repayment of debt. I for one, am very pleased that we reduced our borrowing last year by $3.5 million because we spent money responsibly. And I think we will continue to spend money responsibly. And I think the taxpayers of Winnebago County, those who think about their taxes and their taxes in the future, would thank us for passing this.
Supervisor Haig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If my colleague is worried, sincerely worried about indebtedness, then I would urge my colleague to hit the red button a little more frequently. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll wait by our little transmitter. Vote aye. If you don't, vote no. That has failed.
Sue, would you change my vote to nay, please? I did wrong. My order next resolution. Are you sure? I'm so sure.
6 can't bring it back. Can't bring it back then.
I'll move that we approve the annual budget as amended. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Nay. One nay. Who was nay? Mr. Haig is one nay. Thank you. It was quite a process.